another Tom, Dick, or Dave. These are our Frenzy Faves.
Today, our Frenzy Faves is a favorite Twilight Zone episode.
Ooh. So, Chris, tell us about the episode we're looking at today.
Thank you, Prof. We're going to look at an episode entitled What You Need. This was from Season 1. It was Episode 12. This was directed by Alvin Ganzer. The teleplay was by Rod Serling. It was based on a story called What You Need by Louis Paget. And the original air date on this was December 25th, 1959. For our cast, we had as follows: Steve Cochran as Fred Renard, Ernest Truex as Pedott, Arlene Sachs as the girl in the bar, and Reed Morgan as Lefty. Prof, can you please tell us what happens in the episode What You Need?
You betcha. It's a winter evening in a quiet bar. Fred Renard sits at the bar drinking. There's a little old man that has some junky things for sale on the sidewalk outside the bar, and he comes inside to sell his wares. He goes to a booth where a woman sits alone. She's very neatly put together. Maybe she's a nurse or a stewardess.
That's what you did there.
He asks what she needs, and he gives her a bottle of cleaning solution so that can get spots out of anything. That's cool. And he moves on to the bar where Lefty sits. He's a baseball pitcher who blew out his arm, and now he can't play. The little old man asks what he needs. He doesn't even know. And the man hands him a bus ticket to Scranton, PA. Random, weird, but okay. The bar phone rings, and it's an old coach of Lefty's offering him a coaching job in Scranton, PA. Luckily, he has a bus ticket, but sadly, his jacket has a stain. He can't go to a new job with a stained jacket. But the woman in booth 22 steps up and uses the cleaning fluid to clean his suit. The two make lovey eyes at each other, and they both probably have room for one more, honey. So Fred Renard is watching all this, and he wonders what's up with this little old man. He talks to him, and the man gives Fred what he says he needs, a pair of scissors. That night, going up in the old-timey elevator to his apartment, Fred's scarf gets caught in the elevator door, and he uses the scissors to free himself before he is strangled to death. So Fred realizes the old man can see the future. Cool. The next day, he starts to lean on the old guy. You know what I need. Give it to me. The old man gives him a leaky fountain pen. What am I going to do with this? But the ink falls on a newspaper and seems to select a horse at today's race. Fred bets on the horse and makes a bundle. He tries it again, but the gift only works once. Now, on the snowy street outside the bar, he confronts the old man. Do it again. Give me what I need, in a very threatening manner. He's definitely leaning on this guy. The old man gives Fred a pair of shoes. They are leather. They're a little tight, and they have slippery bottoms. Fred puts the shoes on and goes. And he says, these are what I need, right? And the old man replies, no, they are what I need. And Fred goes to cross the street to chase the man, and he slips on the ice with his slippery shoes and gets hit and killed by a car. As a crowd gathers, the old man gives a bystander a comb. And then when the press photographer is going to take a picture of the accident, the bystander uses the comb to look better. The end. I thought this was a fun episode. Fred is a really good bad guy, and he looked a little to me like Sheldon Leonard did in the Pottersville portion of It's a Wonderful Life. He's not broke, but he's definitely down on his luck and a little aggressive, and, he's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Ernest Truex, the old man, had a very expressive face. He could go quickly from happy that he's helping somebody to a darkness when Fred is threatening him. I don't think this really had the impact to be one of the great Twilight Zone episodes, but I think it is a very good one, a very approachable one. You can see the resolution coming, but I don't think that's a negative. I think that's perfectly fine for this kind of Twilight Zone vibe. So, Chris, what did you think about What You Need?
Thanks, Prof. As per usual, I'll get some trivia out of the way. Ernest Truex also appeared in the Twilight Zone episode Kick the Can. He had a long, very prolific acting career. Steve Cochran also had a prolific movie career, and he notably appeared in the Oscar-winning film The Best Years of Our Lives. His private life was a bit more, let's just say, unscrupulous. He died at sea while in the company of 3 other females on his yacht.
Oh.
The yacht got disabled, and he got sick and died.
Wow.
The women didn't know how to sail it, And they were with him with his decomposing body for 10 days before they were rescued. Yikes.
Oh, man, overboard.
Indeed. Arlene Sachs, I saw what you did there, Prof, a.k.a. Arlene Martell, also appeared in the Twilight Zone episode 22, saying Room for One More Honey. She also appeared as T'Pring in the classic Star Trek episode Amok Time.
So good.
Yes. I think that was on the other night on MeTV. Really good.
Favorites.
Yes. Also appeared with Leonard Nimoy in an episode of The Rebel. And get this, later on she would appear with Leonard Nimoy again in an episode of Mission Impossible. She also appeared in the Demon with a Glass Hand episode of The Outer Limits, classic episode. And she was in not one but two episode of The Monkees. Reed Morgan had a lot of TV credits, but since we're favorites of Kolchak the Night Stalker, we're going to mention him for this one. He appeared in the episode Mr. Ring, where he was just only credited as man. So be on the lookout for that. Per Wikipedia, the original story featured a machine that could foretell the individual's probable future. In the story, the man owns a shop where he has such a machine, and then he gives people what they need to provide the best possible outcomes. Also, the Renard character is killed not by a car, but falling off a subway platform when a train is coming into the station. The version of the story aired on the 1952 episode of the anthology series Tales of Tomorrow, changing the death of the Renard character from a fall to being hit by a car. For this version, Serling replaced the science fiction element with a street peddler who could magically perform the same function, and I think it worked. The final shot before the first commercial where Serling is concluding his narration is actually played backwards. If you look at it carefully, one could see smoke returning to Bernard's cigarette. Wow, I'll have to catch that. There's a scene in this episode where in Mr. Renard's hotel room, a bellhop brings him a newspaper. Bernard opens it and spreads it out on the floor. The movement is quick, but the front page of the newspaper is visible just for a split second, indicating the same front page that was used in another Twilight episode, Time Enough at Last, and the headline reads, H-bomb capable of total destruction. Now check it out. Once Renard opens the paper and looks at the racing page, there are several in-jokes or Easter eggs that are apparent from the names of the listed jockeys. I only caught Serling, which was one of them, referring to Rod Serling, but there's also Clemens, referencing the director of photography, George Clemens, Houghton, referencing producer Buck Houghton, Butler, referring to set decorator Rudy Butler, and Deneau, referencing assistant director Edward Deneau. Wow. My thoughts on this episode. Wow. The music in this one. There is a lot of melancholy music in this one. It's really, really somber, kind of sad. And some of the notes kind of remind me of God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen. I can't put my finger on it. Now, I do note that this episode originally aired on Christmas Day in 1959, so maybe a coincidence, I don't know. Plus, we get this kind of quirky sound effect that I can't replicate here, but when the item is needed or revealed, or when Pedott seems to have a premonition, you hear this little quirky little kind of music, and I think that's good. One of the more perhaps unintentional moments is the bellhop scene where the bellhop brings the paper in, and he kind of is a sheepish guy, and he says to Renault, hey, you ever hear of a tip? And he basically kicks the door backwards, and the guy kind of stumbles back, and I thought that was a little unintentionally comic. He just is so self-deprecating, this guy. He's sort of Charlie Brown-esque and trying to get a tip out of Renard. And I don't know, it kind of reminded me in A Nice Place to Visit when Larry Bryden's character, somebody asks him for a tip, and he kind of shrugs him off. Nobody seems to get a tip in Twilight Zone episodes. I guess it's something not to be given there.
It's a tough room.
It's a tough room, absolutely. Twilight Zone is a very tough room to get a tip. Prof, like you, I think there's a certain charm to Truex's performance in this, and boy, he just really sells it. There's this little niceness to him that I think is really good. Cochran, I don't know how much of the real Cochran is here as Renard, but man, he is just a totally unlikable guy. And he plays it quite well. Arlene Sachs, it was so cool to see her in an early role, aka Arlene Martell. It's the eyes that kind of give it away, because she doesn't quite look how she would appear in her later roles, but it's those eyes that kind of give her away. the Reed Morgan character as Lefty, just the down on the luck ex-baseball player, I think that was a great, great character. And it was so nice to see his face light up when he's on the telephone and he's getting the great news that, his life is about to turn around. Mm-hmm. But boy, I tell you, Cochran as Renault is just sourpuss and sullen throughout this whole thing. But once people latch onto something, I think this is a recurring theme in episodes of The Twilight Zone, where people sort of get greedy and they just push their luck a little too far, and then it comes to backfire. And I think this episode was no exception. And perhaps we'll examine that theme in later episodes. If it was winter, I wonder why there was no snow. But that said, I think you can't fault for the casting or the setting and what the production crew had to work with. I think it was a really, really good episode. I think the music really elevated this quite a bit. The bellhop scene still cracks me up unintentionally. I don't know why. And I'm going to have to watch a little more carefully once I see this episode again to see those names on that newspaper, because I think I only caught Serling. So, Prof, I can't find any flaws with this one. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a top 10 all-timer, but nonetheless, I think it's a very, very strong episode nonetheless. Were there any other little bits and elements that occur to you or that you wanted to cover?
I just thought that the acting in this was so good. I think top to bottom, you mentioned Steve Cochran as looking as playing Fred Renard in a very dark kind of way, and he didn't overdo it, and I thought he was great. Ernest Truex, that's very interesting about his yacht.
Cochran, yeah.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
yeah. And Cochran. And also Truex, I thought he was just so engaging, just so friendly looking. Arlene Sachs was great as the girl in the bar, and we've seen her in so many things. She's so beautiful, and her eyes are so expressive. Kind of has a little bit of kind of Myrna Loy eyes, just very, very interesting looking eyes. And even Lefty, the small part of Lefty, you really felt that he was a guy that's kind of struggling to try to figure out what he can do now moving forward in life. I just thought it was great. And I think, as usual, Twilight Zone delivers with great acting.
I agree, Prof. There is a couple of things which may not hold up to the test of time, in particular, seeing a peddler on a city street. I think we talked about that when we talked about A Pitch for the Angels with Ed Wynn. And wouldn't it be cool to see somebody, just selling matches or shoelaces on the sidewalk? But you don't see that anymore. And I think that it's lost to a certain time. It was well before my time. And the elevator that Renaud gets into, which is sort of like this old elevator where his scarf gets caught in the door. And we really don't see old manual elevators like that these days. I think I might have gotten in one at one time in my life, but I certainly can't. This was probably when I was a kid, and I can't think of this. This was not a modern elevator by any means, and I can't think of. I think a scarf still could get caught in a modern elevator door, but I just don't know. But it was weird seeing sort of more of an antiquated elevator here, which I don't think you'd see possibly these days.
Yeah. It was like the elevator in Charade. Remember in the
yes, thank you.
It's like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Good catch.
So
maybe in Europe there might be elevators like that. I don't know.
We replaced them all.
Yes.
So What You Need is one of our favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
That was a part of our show where we shared some comments on our past podcasts. We'll start with Billy D. And Billy D, thank you for reaching out to me. He said, "Hey, Chris, just chiming in on the latest show. I loved the Flash comic episode." Well, thank you, Billy D.
That was good. You did a great job on that.
I'm very flattered because
great.
It's tough for me to pick and choose some of those things for the corner. So I'm just blown away to get any feedback with respect to that segment.
Yes.
So Billy D continues, "I'm going to try to cover some Silver and Bronze Age Flash this year." Ooh. So we'll see. So I can't wait, Billy D. Thank you. Yeah. And Billy D, I'm going to give you a plug in a moment, but just high praise from you. And I especially like your take with respect to comic books and film. And I'm just very, very humbled. Thank you. Billy D continues, "I love The Changeling. It's very atmospheric. George C. Scott is very good in this one. It's a ghost story, political thriller, murder mystery, etc." Mm-hmm. To put all that off definitely gives it high marks for me. So thank you for chiming in, because I was curious to your take. It's funny you chimed in, Billy D, because you must have been reading my mind, because I wonder what some of our other podcasters and listeners think of a particular movie. And your opinion was one I wondered about. So it's so I hate the word serendipity, but I like that, somebody was thinking like, gee, I really think what Billy D was about. And Billy D told me, and I
There
just,
he goes.
what are the odds? There we go. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, my friend. We covered the Black Room, and we heard from our longtime supporter, Cat Victory, who said, check out a discussion of the Black Room with myself and Professor Frenzy on Frenzy Frights. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Billy D chimed in again, and he said, great show, guys. I have this one in the Karloff collection, but I haven't seen it in quite some time, referring to the Black Room. Appreciate that. On a recent That Guy segment, we talked about Andy Devine. Cat Victory chimed in with this. You can't trust anyone claiming to be a world's greatest liar unless it's hocus pocus frisbee. Learn about frisbee and lots more of the career of Andy Devine from the two most honest podcasters I know. Thank you so much. Yeah, that was a fantastic role that Andy Devine had in an episode of Twilight Zone called Hocus Pocus and Frisbee, where he was indeed the world's greatest liar. And it was a very, very comical and charming episode, and I liked it a lot.
That's right. They can just call us Abe Lincoln Frenzy.
Yes. Well done. We also recently covered a Twilight Zone episode entitled The Game of Pool, and Cat Victory chimed in again. And one of the characters in particular is Fats Brown in this. Cat Victory states, Fats Brown is excellent as the arrogant bully / good guy. In the end, we learn that Fats is in complete control of the situation, and even though he's tired of being champ, he still tries to save Jesse from himself. Good catch. Cat Victory continues, I also like the fact that Fats backs up every arrogant insult with skill and results. I absolutely love the caustic, biting insults served up by Jonathan Winters in A Game of Pool. This is exactly how I would act in public if I didn't know better. Quote, you like to play with fire, but you don't like to cook. Awesome. It is perfect, 100%. I really like this episode with all the subtle messages just below the surface. It is. I think it's a very, very underrated episode with two talented actors. Recently read online, though, too, where Jack Klugman, if his agent said, Rod Serling's got a Twilight Zone script, Jack Klugman would instantly accept without even reading the script, because he just loved the stuff that Rod wrote, and it was fantastic. Yeah. And just marvelous stuff that Klugman was in there. And it's so cool to see Jonathan Winters, who we know as this comedic actor, doing a fantastic dramatic turn in that one. Cat Victory continues. Check out our show. It's for an excellent episode of Twilight Zone. We heard from our friend, listener emeritus Mac Rocks. And once again, we were talking about the Twilight Zone episode, A Game of Pool. Mac Rocks starts, no doubt, two fine actors here. Klugman in this episode reminds me of the adage, be careful what you wish for. Mm-hmm. Yes. As to what cost comes with the goal, Klugman and The Odd Couple and Quincy is just fabulous. And I agree. Yeah, don't fall asleep on Quincy. It was a marvelous TV show. Loved it a lot. And Klugman and The Odd Couple as well. And in fact, I didn't even know there was a movie based on it. I saw, the opening to the TV show. It said Neil Simon's Odd Couple, but I assumed it was it must have been a play, but I didn't catch that as well as the movie and everything else like that, and the theater aspect of it. But yeah. And Macrox continues, I never thought The Odd Couple show would surpass the movie with Lemon and Matthau, but it did with high marks. And I kind of concur. Yeah, I've seen Lemon and Matthau. Fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but man, I Randall and Klugman are just as fantastic in that series.
Yep.
Macross continues, Winters is the quintessential comic actor for sure, and it's a mad world. Yes, he is spectacular. One of my favorites. I try to watch that film at least once a year because I have it was before my time, but I have marvelous memories of this when CBS, I think, would air it on a Saturday on sometime in the summer, and just it's a must watch. It's hysterical. Prof, I'm sure you've seen It's a Mad or multiple times. Yes,
the big W.
The big W, I tell you.
W. Jimmy Durante. Oh,
literally kicking the bucket. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
It's the cast is phenomenal. Even just the cameos too. The cameos are great as well. It's a great film. Yeah.
Spencer Tracy.
Don Knotts has a bit in it. Yeah.
Boy. Classic.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. Sylvester. Yeah. Just
Ethel Merman.
Ethel Merman screaming. Oh, yeah. Just
classic.
Classic stuff. Macross continues, before I go away, let me add Russ Conway as a candidate for that guy. Until next time, be well, and remember to pick up your pull. Hi-oh, silver away. This is done. Oh, good stuff there. Oh,
Yep.
Yeah, fantastic. We also recently talked about the film The Changeling. Moonpupster said, I saw this as a double feature as a kid with the movie Death Ship. How about that? Prof, I don't think I saw Death Ship, but how about that? Prof, did you catch a lot of double features when you were, I'm putting you on the spot here, but did you catch a lot of double features back in the day?
No, not at all. Only one. Went to a drive-in with my dad when I was little to see Beneath the Planet of the Apes and some movie about some guy running in the Olympics or something with bare feet. That's all I remember.
Prefontaine maybe? Something like that?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. Interesting enough. Because, like you, if it was a double feature for me, it was, as a kid, it was like a double feature. It was typically something like that. And I couldn't remember all the things I've seen. I think I saw Anaconda there with respect to things in a double feature. Happy Birthday to Me was one. Gosh, I got to give it some thought. But yeah, if it was a double feature, they were typically drive-ins. Oh, and before I forget, though, before we move off of the movies and our thank yous, Dick Shawn, marvelous too. And as Sylvester, as fantastic Dick Shawn. And that one is a great one.
He passed too young, that guy.
Very true. Great. Very, very true. Yeah. Phil Silvers, Buddy Hackett, Mickey Rooney. Yep. Oh, my God. Yeah. Milton Berle, Sid Caesar, Spencer Tracy even. Just what a movie. What a movie. Well, now it's our time for our thank yous, and let me get ready to give some nice shout-outs here. Please stand by. We'll start it off with Robin, the mascot of our show, Robin 031. Robin, kiss for you, love of my life. Thank you so much for your inspiration. Two Sleeps at Two Sleeps Music. Two Sleeps puts on a concert twice a week. You can catch it on Twitch TV. So Sunday afternoons, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central. Go to your computer, type in Two Sleeps, Twitch TV. Click on the link once you're there. You can click on the link in the interactive chat. That'll bring you to a song list of well over 200 songs. Before I forget, Two Sleeps also has a very inexpensive Patreon. For $1 mere, you will get original content. Yes, indeed. Concerts last about as long as we can get through those requests. So they typically go through an hour, but sometimes it can stretch to an hour and a half or even a little bit longer once everybody gets their request played. Tuesday nights, the concert happens at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. So I want to make sure I get the times right in there. Two Sleeps always is very kind to give a podcast a plug, so I cannot thank him enough for his longtime support. The music varies. You might hear some Beatles 8 days a week. How about some Bob Seger? How about some Foo Fighters, Commander Cody, Johnny Cash, Eagles, you name it. He'll do it. It's fantastic stuff. Marvelous rendition of Tom Petty. Also, before I forget, I want to give a shout out to Kara, a.k.a. Karasaurus Rex, a.k.a. Kara, who does a lot of things behind the scenes with respect to getting the show up and running and off the ground. So fantastic stuff there. Nice little bit there. This past week, we had The Day the Music Died, Buddy Holly. So a little bit of discussion in the chat with respect to that. Yeah. And, of course, Two Sleeps did a Buddy Holly song this past February 3rd in tribute to The Day the Music Died, and a nice Buddy Holly song. Thank you so much for that, Two Sleeps. It's our friend Randy at Randall Enders 1, or Frumpy Sketch Artist. Randy does these robotic sketches. So on Twitter, Randall Enders 1 is the feed. On Blue Sky, Frumpy Sketch. So please check out the robotic sketches. Please check out Amazon for Randy's coloring books about the robots. He's got 3 of them out there all together right now. Makes a fantastic gift. Randy also does a fantastic podcast called Soundtrack Alley, which looks at how music enhances a film along with the film's history. It's a marvelously produced podcast. Please check it out. It's our friend Clinton, who does a podcast called Coffee and Comics. In that podcast, Clinton will look at a comic, and about the time it takes to drink a cup of coffee. Occasionally, Clinton will have on a guest and ask some fascinating questions. Clinton also does a podcast called Fan Film Fridays. Most recently, he had on the Irredeemable Shag to look at a Jesse Quick fan film over on YouTube. You can find that over at the Longbox Crusade feed, but don't worry, once you're there, you'll get a whole treasure trove and plethora of fantastic podcasts. Please check them all out. Days of High Adventure is a sword and sorcery comics podcast Glenn does in his spare time, if he has time. And Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Power Hour. I'm not sure if that's on hiatus. I'll have to double check. That's with John and Lane. Billy D, thank you so much. Magazines and Monsters is the feed where you can find Billy D. Billy D recently wrapped up a coverage of the Black Panther comic from the 1970s along with Ed. Marvelous, marvelous guest. Boy, Ed really brought the history, too, with that one, and some good stuff with respect to Kirby. Ed, a shout out to you for being a marvelous guest on Billy D's podcast where he looked at the Black Panther comics. So many podcasts that look at classic horror films, Hammer horror films in general, Bronze Age horror. Oh, I forgot the creepy stuff too. Looking at the Warren magazines. Oh God, that was a fantastic stuff. Yeah, good stuff there, Billy D. With the recent look at the creepy. Man, I didn't know you were going to lean into the Warren like you did. So that was a marvelous, pleasant surprise. Got me through this past week listening to things. So thank you so much for that. And before I forget, I also want to give a shout out to the Brave and the Bob podcast. Good stuff over there where you recently looked at a Brave and Bold comic from back in the day. That was the last one I needed to get all the Brave and Bolds with the Batman team-ups in them. So that was a fantastic one, a Silver Age one with a team-up of the Atom that brought back some great memories for me. I think Delvin was the guest on that one from the Longbox Crusade. Marvelous, marvelous show. So Billy D, thank you for your support. Listener to Emeritus, Mac Rocks, thank you so much, my friend. And speaking of longtime support, D.S. May Collins. Thank you, my friend. Chris Hamby over at Chris Hamby Films. We can't thank you enough for your getting in there as well. The Gringo, The Rad Adventures. It's our friends Darren and Ruth over the Rad Adventures Network and Podcast. Bill Beer over the Bat Pod. Thank you so much, my friend, with Dave J. David and looking at the Batman comics, past and present. Brent Michaud and Bill in Colorado. If I overlooked you, I feel terrible about it because I want to make sure everybody gets a shout out. So if I did, let me know. I'd be doing bad bugs. Better still, let the professor himself know at Professor Frenzy, and we cannot thank you enough for listening and your longtime support.
Not just another Tom, Dick, or Dave. These are our